presenting during the workshop today, but I'll allow everybody to do their own introductions. I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and fingers crossed I do it properly. Bear with me. Okay. Share. And view, present. Can you see my screen? Gaia, can you just shout out, can you see my screen? Yeah, great.
Yes.
Super, thanks very much. Okay, how did we get to this slide? Good morning, everyone. As I said, my name is Jennifer Adams, and I'm the Academic Director here at SAE Dubai. I only joined SAE in September of this year, so I won't have met most of you before. I've been around higher education in Dubai for quite a number of years. I was previously the manager of higher education academic quality and standards at the KHDA, and I have now joined SAE in a similar role. So what we're planning to do today is to discuss the entrepreneurial mindset and self-leadership, and we're going to look at it from both the aspect of the academic side of our operation plus the pastoral side. So we're going to look at the academic counselling and the pastoral counselling, and then we're also going to look at it with the employability angle in today's workshop. We have limited time. I appreciate you're all very busy, so if you don't mind, if you could hold on to your questions until the end, and then we will take as many questions as you have at the end. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, so most of you already know SAE, but for anybody who's joining us for the first time, I just want to clarify that SAE is an international higher education institution. We train aspiring creatives and media professionals. We were established in Dubai in 2005. And we have international accreditation. So we're an Australian institution. We have accreditation by the Australian Regulatory Authority, TEXA, and we're licensed here to operate in Dubai by the Knowledge and Human Development Authority, who license SAE Dubai and also attest our qualifications. SAE globally has campuses in 47 campuses globally in 23 countries, but this is always uncounting because it's very much on a growth trajectory. Really to keep in line with the growth in demand for creative media. I'm sure this slide is familiar to a number of you. It's basically an announcement by our leadership stating that they want Dubai to be the capital of the creative industries, and aiming to increase the number of creative jobs from 70 to 150,000 over a period of 5 years. So huge growth potential for the creative media industry. And obviously with that comes an increase in the GDP of the country from approximately 2.6 to 5% of GDP over a period of 5 years is aiming to come from the creative space.
Hello.
Hi everyone, no idea what happened there. Apologies, I definitely didn't click off the link. In fact, my other link is still live, so I'll just close that down now. Bear with me while I restart the presentation. Now, I think this is as far as I got. Is that correct? Gaia, can you confirm, is this as far as I got?
Yes.
Right, okay, thank you. So did you hear what I was saying about this, or did I zoom on far too quickly?
Yeah, I think we captured the information from this slide.
So we'll move on to the next one. So taking in mind what our leadership is talking about, and also the information that's coming from the World Economic Forum jobs report, they identified that by 2025, all of us, or 50% of the workforce, is going to need a degree of reskilling. And the top skills that they identified were the skills on critical thinking were very important, and also those of self-management, such as active learning, which is going to be a large focus of what we're talking about today, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. And I'm sure these are things that you discuss within your schools, the importance to the students that it's not just sufficient to have the subject knowledge, that you also need to have these personal transferable skills that will enhance your employability. In fact, most employers are actually testing for these skills as part of the graduate selection process rather than focusing on the technical knowledge, because a lot of employers say that that is something that they can teach their employees. Okay, so for our presentation today, I'm going to focus on the academic side of things. So the first thing I want to talk about are teaching and learning strategies, and how these teaching and learning strategies can help pupils to become active learners. So the active learning model is all about learning through doing. It's about collaborative, quite often group project-based learning, where the students are applying their knowledge to develop their skills and their understanding of subjects. And these are very much aligned to the top skills that we looked at in the previous slide. So there's a number of different ways that you can develop active learning, but what I'd like to share with you is SAE's active learning strategy. And that is one where we have holistically assessed, industry-focused, project-based learning. Now, we do that because this is very much a vocational focused institution, whereby we're teaching students both the practical skills and the employability skills necessary to be successful employees or self-employed individuals within the creative industries. And we focus on 3 Ps. The first being proficiency, which is very much the skills, the tools of your trade, the how you do what you want to do, whether it be in animation or audio, the skills to be a filmmaker. The process is the way in which you apply these skills, the how side of things. So we've got the skills, the how you do it. And these two are very useful on their own. However, they don't make a highly employable SAE graduate unless you look at the person as well. And we will work in developing these personal transferable skills with our students. We focus on the employability to develop our students from they join us in the very first trimester right through to graduation. And we embed these personal transferable skills throughout what we do, so that applying both their practical knowledge, so the proficiency and the process, along with these personal transferable skills. So the question that many people ask is, how do students develop to be active learners? It's not something that's innate. It's something that we need to practice, we need to reinforce. So it's part of the lifelong learning cycle. And again, it's about this learning through doing. So 2 of the key ways that we identify to develop active learning is through self-reflection and deliberate practice. Self-reflection being the process of critical self-reflection formally embedded in the learning process. But this is something that students should be doing from a very early age throughout their school education, throughout their higher education, and throughout their professional working life, this self-reflection and this continuous learning. So we work with our students to identify areas for improvement. So where, having done the self-reflection, where can you improve, and develop strategies to address this. Now, there's various ways that you can do this, and I'm sure within your individual schools you have your own techniques for developing self-reflective practices as part of the active learning strategy for your students. But within SAE, one of the main ways we do this is through a learning journal. And students do learning journals for all of their units, and this is a record of their learning. They create a portfolio of their learning throughout their time with SAE. And this learning journal is not a diary. It's about reflective, self-reflection and deliberate practice. So the other important part of active learning is deliberate practice. After the self-reflection from activities, you're then setting clear strategies and goals to identify how you can improve, and seeking continuous feedback from peers and supervisors. So this is stuff that you can be doing in schools with pupils, setting small tasks, asking them to reflect on them, and then working with them to develop the strategies as how they're going to grow and learn from different scenarios within the school environment. And we continue that in higher education. With us, as I said, it's learning journals. So an SAE graduate would leave with 2 portfolios. They would leave with a portfolio of their creative output, the projects, it could be movies, animation, games that they develop, and they also have a portfolio of learning that they can share and build on as their careers progress. Okay, so building on this, we're talking about the entrepreneurial mindset and self-leadership. And obviously the entrepreneurial or growth mindset, as it's also referred to, is a set of skills that enables the student to identify and make the most of opportunities. And again, this entrepreneurial mindset is very much aligned to the 10 key skills that we identified and were identified by the World Economic Forum. With the entrepreneurial mindset, aligned to this comes the notion of self-leadership, and that's the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking towards your objectives. So whether it be school, whether it be higher ed, or whether it be a graduate fresh in employment, it's about self-awareness, understanding who they are, what they want to achieve, and intentionally working towards this. Now, with you, this could be students in grade 10 selecting subjects because they have a notion of the career that they want to go into. It could be the students in grade 12 or grade 13, depending on what curriculum you're working within, helping them choose a university course to align with the subjects and their areas of interest and expertise. Here within SAE, we do this with a really simple reflective learning and self-leadership tool, and this is where we look at the what, the so what, and the now what. And we do this, the what have I learned, so what, why is it important, now what am I going to do with this learning, and how can it take me on to the next stage. This could be something as simple as 1 week's work placement, that a student may think that they want to study engineering. They have a work placement within an engineering company or an architectural practice, whatever it is they're going to do. And you can say, well, what did you do there? So what? Why is that relevant? What did you learn? And the so what might be, I really didn't like it and I thought this is what I wanted to do, but actually I want to do something different. Or yes, it ignited a fire in me and I'm really passionate about this. So my now what would be, okay, what do I need to do to get myself to study this at university? And it could be doing obviously their exams at school to get them their place at university, but it could also be doing additional work placement, or it could be doing some additional learning, be it free online learning courses, etc., building their knowledge to help them better understand the career that they want to go into. So the What, so what, now what is embedded in everything that we do as part of the learning process. So, how can you effectively support students to develop self-leadership skills? Well, as I mentioned at the outset, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's about practice and continual practice and learning from that practice. So going back to the what, so what, now what, supporting students to develop self-awareness by initiating activities that encourage regular and consistent practice. Now, this may be through counselling workshops that you run. It could be within workshops as part of the students who are planning for their next stages after school. So that could be the what. The so what could be obviously assisting them to determine whether what they've learned within school has been effective, whether it's preparing them for the next step, and also to discuss with them areas for improvement and how can they build on their learning. So the final stage in the what, so what, now what is creating an environment where students feel confident to take those decisions about their own learning and empower them to make clear, smart objectives for the future learning. And from my point of view, having taught in higher ed for many years and also having taught briefly in schools in sixth form, that this is a really important part because it's about giving students the confidence to make their own decisions. It's about helping them to work out what they want to do and assisting them to set criteria for their future learning. And obviously this has to be tailored to every individual student. You can give them the general tools of the trade, but the one-to-one counselling is where, from an academic perspective, the real work is done on an individual basis. So how can you help students to develop that entrepreneurial or this growth mindset? I'm pretty old-fashioned, and I think it's probably a generation thing, and that I think the students are currently coming through the sort of senior levels of school very much have grown up with this sort of entrepreneurial growth mindset, and the idea of a career for life and sort of one set of skills is kind of gone. And I think there's a general understanding of the need to be flexible and adaptive and continually learning. But there's a number of things that we identify within SAE that we work to support our students. You may have different things that you would identify within your curriculum or the students that you support, but certainly within SAE we have sort of 5 areas that we sort of focus on, not solely on these, but these are sort of kind of key areas that we look at that are embedded within our curriculum. And these are embedded within the industry-focused projects and the active learning cycle that we adopt. So it's about the positive attitude, about the understanding that self-reflection and deliberate practice are part of everything that you do, because it's what you as a student can control, that you as an individual are the person who can make the biggest difference to your own future career. And this is aligned with the creative mindset. We're in the creative media, creative industries, so our students work on the notion of turning an idea into a project brief and turning that into deliverable, be it a short film or it could be a script that they're writing. But this creative mindset and the need to set yourself goals and targets and ultimately deliver something. Persuasive communication is something that I'm actually going to pick up on again because it's one of my key takeaways from today, but it's about the ability to communicate with others and to present your ideas to deliver group projects. Very few people nowadays will work in isolation. Even people who work as self-employed creatives generally are working to a brief and working as part of a bigger team. So it's about this ability to work as a team and communicate with people. It is a very important skill. And that can be done at school level through small projects. And I know that a lot of the learning within schools is done on a group basis now. And it's about individuals being motivated and having this tenacity and ability to learn. And the way we do this is we set our students a number of milestones throughout their learning in each unit that helps them to get to their final goal. And this is something that as counsellors you could be doing with students, is setting them or helping them to set a series of small milestones that will help them to get to their final goal. Now, I'm conscious of time and I've talked quite a bit, but I would like to share with you my sort of takeaway from today, and this is my last slide, but it's about how you can help students to successfully transition from school to higher ed and from higher education to the workplace. As I said, when I taught in university, I spent a lot of time supporting students who were transitioning from school to their first year at university. And the top of my list, the top takeaway, if you tell them to do nothing else, is about communication. And that's communication with the academic side and also communication with the student support side. Because within higher education, everybody wants the students to succeed, but any student who's encountering any challenges has to communicate and speak up and have the confidence to voice that they need support, or that they have challenges, and whether that be with the member of the academic faculty who's teaching them, be it the academic support team, or be it the student services team. But communication and the ability to articulate your thoughts is really, really key. And again, I know that this is done a lot in schools, especially with the pupils, as part of their assessments. Time management is a challenge that we face, and I'm sure you face it as well. It's getting students to deliver to specification on time, and that's certainly a problem with creatives who are never quite satisfied and are always in search of perfection, and sometimes that can allow them to stray off timescales. Therefore, we're working with our students continually to ensure that they're developing their self-management skills so that they can maximise their output in the time that they have available, so that they deliver on specification, on time, and to budget. The next thing that we obviously focus on is helping our students to develop their accomplishments and commitment to their chosen field. And this is certainly something that we would actively encourage from an early age in school. If a student has a clear idea of what they want to study, if they come to us, they may not necessarily have the right grades. They may have just missed their grades that their offer's based on. But if students can give us evidence that they have studied that particular field, they've created a portfolio of work, then that's something that we can take into consideration as part of their overall entry criteria. And this profile really comes with the commitment to demonstrate that the area they're focusing on and identifying their weaknesses and working on those over a period of time. The two final points are something that I think students in Dubai and the UAE tend to be much better at, and I think because they have this international focus, and I think quite a lot of the time, when I go back to the UK, I find that the international students tend to have a degree of confidence that perhaps some of the students who have grown up within the UK don't always have. I don't know how other people feel when they go back to their home country, but I always feel that this ability and the need to understand that you have to network with people and be aware of your chosen subject area locally and internationally is really important. So if somebody's wanting to do medicine, then they should be linking with medical professionals to try and get some guidance and support. It's very difficult here to obviously get any access to clinical practice, but developing your local and your international awareness of your chosen field is also something that's very important. So these are my sort of 7 takeaways today that as career and coaching and counsellors for students, these are things, if you do nothing else by preparing students with these skills, these are very valuable. So I'll take any questions at the end. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Gaia.
Morning. Thank you, Jennifer. So now that Jennifer's covered the kind of academic counselling and support that we can focus on within the creative media fields and the reflective practice, I'd like to take it one step further and talk a little bit more about the pastoral counselling support that we offer. which still ties into the reflective practice that the students do because it's at the core of our curriculum, but also because it makes for the best professionals in a creative media field. So I'd like to talk a little bit about grit and nurturing the growth mindset. The definition of grit we'll be using today will focus on growth, resilience, instinct, and tenacity. Instinct being the one that I'd like to really let that sink in, that term. Tied to that, going one step further, I'd like to talk about these words that are on my slide here. Courage, conscientiousness, perseverance, resilience, and passion. This is the heart of every creative here at SAE. But I believe that it is also the heart of any child. That's how they start. They start with a sense of resilience that often over time they tend to lose. And what we want to do is nurture that, is to continue to nurture that. And the way to do that is to think of these not as skill sets, but as values that students can pick up on. This is very different from the sense of values that they learn from a nurture perspective, from environment, from backgrounds they're from, and what you essentially want to start to build within children and students is the ability to look within and start thinking of values that they want to live by. Where does this sense of purpose come in? What are they really tied to? What kind of impact do they want to make? And starting these questions early in the educational journey is significant so that they're able to understand a level of self-awareness that usually they only start kind of thinking about a little later, maybe later into adolescence. So if we start instilling the idea of these personal values as the kind of foundation for the kind of impact they want to make on the world, then you're already starting to get them to think about, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? How do I want to get there? And that's kind of the long-term goal-setting strategy that we want to instill in these students. When we talk about values, we also kind of help them get an understanding of not just purpose-driven perseverance, which is so significant, but also intrinsic and extrinsic locuses of control. So when we talk about resilience, we're also talking about the ability to understand that not everything can be controlled. Life also happens. And how do you kind of roll with that? How do you roll with the punches? How can you plan for that? How do you dust yourself off and get back up? So when we're talking about values, we're talking about really having them think, be self-aware, be mindful about their learning, be able to say, okay, this is something I struggle with, but this is how I can improve that. But these are also the skills I have, which are great. These are my strengths. These are opportunities for me to improve on. So that level of self-awareness brings them to also understand a collaborative environment, understanding that I don't need to do everything on my own all the time. So understanding, here's where I excel. This is where a peer could potentially help me with my project, with my learning, with understanding what I don't necessarily understand on my own. When we talk about the values, the intrinsic locus of control, the extrinsic locus of control, it brings us back to the growth mindset and why that's significant. When we talk about the growth mindset, I'd like to introduce the concept of a false growth mindset. A false growth mindset is essentially the acceptance that as much as we may nurture a growth mindset within ourselves and within our students, it's also important to understand that we don't have a growth mindset all the time. We are human, we are going to falter, and so are our students. And so it's also essential for them to have the awareness of maybe in certain areas, I have a growth mindset. Maybe in certain areas, I have a fixed mindset. And maybe that's something I want to nurture. Maybe that's something I want to change. And that's somewhere that we need support. So how do you kind of help your students identify, firstly, where they have their growth mindsets and how they can adapt that to fixed mindsets? And that goes back to values. So tie that back into, what are my values? What is the purpose? What is the social impact I want to create? Where do I want to go and be? And once you break that down, once your students are able to break that down, have that level of awareness and mindfulness that they can bring in, they're also able to see these are areas where I know I have a growth mindset. These are areas I struggle to have growth mindset. But acceptance and acknowledgement of that is your first step to bringing about that change. So what are a few things that we can do in terms of nurturing a positive growth mindset and helping to adapt beyond the fixed mindset? One is to change how you praise. So this is something that is common practice, and we've probably heard a lot of it. You've done really well. Excellent on that effort. It's so significant to be able to not personalize that praise. So separate your praise from the person and try to ensure the praise is associated with the process. So instead of saying, great job, you must be really smart at this, saying something like, great job, you must have worked really hard. Emphasize learning goals. So as Jennifer had mentioned previously, throughout the reflective practice elements that our students do through their learning journals, what is essential is the what, so what, now what. So it's constantly tied back to the learning goals that students are very well aware of in each unit, and the milestones and the project goals. And that's very significant to re-emphasize the learning goals, where it's not grade-oriented, it's not just achievement-oriented, it's process-oriented. So the purpose of those learning goals is what you want to continuously nurture. Don't praise effortless achievement. So things like, oh, you've done that really quickly, not the point. How have you done it? Are you aware of how you've done it? And can you go back and see how you could have improved the process for next time? Attributing success to effort is significant because then you are nurturing talent, you're nurturing perseverance, you're nurturing resilience and the ability to keep going. Don't label anybody as smart because that usually puts people in a fixed mindset where intelligence is innate and fixed, and you want to stay away from that. Accepting mistakes, celebrating them even, allowing your students to, again, sit down and reflect as to where they went wrong, why that was not necessarily the best way to go about a solution, and figure out how can I do it differently. Lastly, and tied into the previous point, making mistakes a part of the process. Celebrate them. It's significant in their learning. I'm going to hand over to Christina Kalas, who will talk about the employability segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaia. Now, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen at this point in time and allow Christina to drive her slides.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Gaia, and welcome to everyone. There are some, like most of the names I'm familiar with, so it's so good to have you back again to our seminars, and to the new ones, welcome. In fact, what I will be discussing during my presentation and through those slides is a continuation to what has been presented and developed by my colleagues. But in fact, so when we're talking about the entrepreneurial mindset, and if we're talking about the self-leadership and those support in the skills, so where the students that are joining SAE are able to use those skills in which fields, and how we are able, with what have been presented till now, is not like only to get these students up to a level when they are graduating, just like to be submitting CVs and applying to companies. But what we're doing is that we are making them ready for independent jobs, which means that they can rely on their skills, they can rely on their leadership talent that they have gained to start businesses on their own. So what I will do now in my brief presentation, and I will be now just sharing my screen, is to take you through the programs that are offered at SAE and how those skills in the classrooms are going to enable the students to be very ready to the workforce and to the work placement. So SAE Institute, it's not your average classroom, it's not your average student, which means that for the counselors who have already visited us, our classrooms are not the typical or the normal classroom environments where students at schools, they would normally progress in. So the environment is completely different, and the student type and how we start with them from the stage 1 of studies and develop their leadership skills, they start being also different. The bachelor degree programs where we turn, and this is like our motto, I always like repeat it in my all my talks, is that for SAE, it's to turn your passion into profession. So this is it. When students are applying for one of the 5 majors that we have, like that we teach at SAE, in animation, audio, design, film, or games, and now also with a new diploma that we are launching in February 2022 in virtual reality and augmented reality, we talk about passion. We cannot be passionate, or we cannot be in audio or have a career in audio if we're not passionate about that field. Same for animation, same for the other streams that we are teaching here. A new diploma of augmented and virtual reality, as I mentioned, will be launched in a couple of months, and we started like enrolling students for this program. But in fact, why are we now launching this program? Because in fact, the virtual reality and augmented reality in retail market in Middle East is expected to grow from a $210.78 million US dollars in 2021 to reach 734.25 million in 2028. So there's like a growth of 19.5% from between 2021 and 2028. So we are making students or people or creatives ready and to be able to be employed or to start any business within the ARVR field. And especially that now when we talk about the creative industries, we're talking about lucrative careers. It's just like not anymore a hobby or something to do on the side, but these are very rewarding careers, and they need lots of dedication. And that dedication, we start with it, and we start like teaching those, how you will be dedicated to those careers when the students are joining SAE. Why? Because SAE is different, and this is what we will be listing now. Most of it has been already developed and shared by Jennifer and Gayatri, because it's all with the mindset of entrepreneurship, of leadership, of independence, autonomy in the teaching. And this is what we have been doing for the past 40 years. So it's 40 years of creative pedigree, the faculty pool of industry experts. So it's important to mention that, in fact, your academics are also industry experts. So they are here to support you with the academic content, but also within their continuous presence and development in the industry, they are able to accompany the academic part with the technological part. Because when we are in the field of creative industries, so this is an industry that is going very, very fast. So we have to be up to date in the technology, in the content, in the trend, up to date. And this we will only get it from experts. Our adaptive degree programs, and this is like completely explained by the nature of the programs. So whatever has been mentioned by now by Gayatri and Jennifer is the fact that our degrees are very adaptive to the content itself, but also adaptive to the learning styles that we use, the learning styles of the students, and the nature of the programs. We offer a virtual reality environment, and of course, again, I emphasize on the fact of having local and international industry network. Networking is very important, and this is like one of the skills that the students at SAE will start building. And I know that at schools, you start teaching students on how to network, because once they are in the industry and working, so they need to know who to go for and how to get the work done. And that is something that they will get from networking, from going to others, from collaboration that exists between different professionals. So we start with it from early stages. And of course, there are the imparting 21st century skills, and those are the transferable skills that we teach. We mentioned design thinking, it's leadership, it's communication skill that is very important, collaboration is very important. Again, so for the ones who are new and probably like didn't know about like SAE, but this is something that has also been mentioned by Jennifer, that all our bachelor degrees are TEXA accredited, and TEXA stands for the Tertiary Education Quality Standard Agency in Australia. So the students who are joining SAE, they do have the international accreditation for the bachelor degree. And of course, in the UAE, we are accredited by KHDA. Student experience. So in addition to those skills, the students, they have lots of opportunities that are offered by the university. So first of all, it's the access to industry standard equipment and studio facilities. That environment is very important, because just like relying on the academic skills, that's very important. But again, when they want to produce the portfolio that we have explained, or to be documenting their learning journal with every milestone that they have worked on, they need to have it done within the perfect environment for that. And that can only happen by using the studio facilities and the equipment that we offer to the students, so that they can submit a holistic project and a portfolio that is like really up to the very high standards of the industry. Students have a very vast platform to showcase their talent through their work. So in fact, every trimester, we organize a student showcase where every group of students is showcasing their work. And we invite also public. Now, it used to be pre-COVID times, but now we are holding this online, and we invite career counselors, but also we open it to public to come and attend and see that beautiful work that has been produced by the students. Again, a network with industry experts and potential employers, so that once they are ready, the students know how to or whom to approach in the industry if they want to apply for jobs, or if they want to take projects on their own by being freelancers, or to start like founding their small companies. It's an education that goes beyond the classroom, of course, because when they need to produce their work, they cannot just sit in a classroom and produce it. So they need to be somewhere else. It can be a production house, it can be the studios, it can be out on a shoot set. So it happens out of SAE doors. It's a student engagement also. So all the students are engaged throughout events and clubs that we organize for them at SAE, and they make their views heard by the student council body. Again, I've been repeating this so many times, is about the industry and the industry associations that we have. So for SAE, we do have an advisory council. It's due to the efforts to offer practical and real-life and industry-aligned approach to its academic or to our academic curriculum. So we have launched a new advisory council through our Center of Industry Engagement. And that comprises of leading professionals from the different industry of creative media. So now for every industry or for every stream that we teach at SAE, we do have a professional whose mission is to mentor the student and to add to the academic knowledge that is being taught at SAE. So for just like to name a few, so we have G. Bongay, who's the CEO and founder of Bus Bunny Games, who is mentoring the students for games. We have Sujoyce Cherian, who's CEO of Option One Events. We have also a representative for audio engineer specialist, who's Rijesh Nair. We also have Federico Beja, who is a filmmaker. And also we have a Graham Ahrens, who is mentoring the students who are studying the design field. So with these experts, we try to form a career path for every student. And the mentorship that they offer is very important because that will help them also identify the areas within a specific field that they would like to focus on. And once they graduate, they are ready to enter the field that they want to. So in fact, what I want to mention also is that SAE, we're making the students ready to enter the industry. They enter it either through the door of employability, but also through the door of freelancing. We have very successful stories of students who, because of the guidance that they got while they were studying at SAE and a bit of internship and of course experience in the industry, they got the skills that were enough for them and to be able to start their own ideas to make it see the light. So if I want to name a person, for example, one of the person that has studied audio with SAE, whose name is, I'm going to show it to you because I don't want to get the accent or the name different. So it's Elvis Garagjic. And Elvis now, he is a partner, but also an owner in a leading audio studio in SAE, and it's an award-winning audio studio. Elika Shaza, she did her film studies at SAE, graduated, did small jobs in the market through production houses, but once she completed that, she was able to open to launch her marketing company and social media company, but also she works with Art Fusion Nights. And Art Fusion Nights is a platform that exists in the UAE to help young artists and independent artists to make their place within the industry. So they take them, they organize events, and they launch them to the public. So this is a very important aspect because now we know that many students still at school, I'm sure that you will face many of them during your orientation sessions, who says that I want to be on my own. So yes, being in the creative industries, it helps you to be on your own. Of course, you will need an expertise for that, but it comes with time. So with the leadership and the entrepreneurial mindsets and those skills that you will gain at SAE while you're still studying with us, and a bit of experience in the market, this will allow you to be able to have your own, or what we call an independent artist or independent creative person, that we will take projects. And being in such a lucrative industry, it means that they will make a good amount of money. So this is my introduction about SAE, the programs. Of course, we don't want to go through lots of details about those, but again, it's please feel free to ask any questions that you have, either for any one of us, Jennifer, Gayatri, and myself. Anyone has a question?
Is there anything that anybody would like to ask? If there's something that perhaps we didn't cover that you were expecting us to, or if there's anything that you would like more information on? Or did we put you all to sleep? Were we that boring?
I think somebody in the chat has asked about any guides about career coaching certified programs. There are multiple indexes that we can get certified in. Some of them are 72 hours long. I can send you some details about the one we have here by the Thought and Wellbeing Center in DKP. They developed their own index. The reason I quite like that index is, again, it is based on values. And so it kind of ties back into allowing the student to understand who they are, what their impact needs to be, what their purpose is before, and then guides them through the journey of making a career choice. So it is a few sessions of back and forth with the student. So it helps really align with not just advice, but the student being in charge of that process.
Yes, there's a question by David Ipe. Hi, David. It's been a long time. So where he's asking if you admit students with special needs. So I know that this is a topic that is very important. Would you like to go on that one, Gayatri?
Sure. So yes, SAE is an inclusive environment. The admissions criteria is very much the same. So as long as the student meets our entry requirements or admission requirements, and the student declares at the onset that there are specific learning needs or mental health concerns, we're able to start a conversation about the level of support and accommodations that can be offered. Of course, the level of support and accommodations does mean that there can't be any change in curriculum or the learning outcomes per se, but we can definitely discuss support options that are available depending on the student's learning needs. Sorry, I think there's a follow-up question there.
Can I just add to that as well, Gaia? Because yes. We have to take into account the nature of the students' needs, and yes. That's something that Gaia works very closely with the students on. But there are some instances where our programmes are not appropriate. So, for example, if somebody wanted to study audio but had problems with dexterity and then would not be able to manage the decks, etc., then we would discuss that with the student, and we wouldn't reject them because of any disability. But what we would say is, that we have to be realistic. Similarly, if somebody has problems with coordination or strength, then perhaps a film programme would not be suitable for them because of the need to handle cameras, etc. So we assess every student and take into account their individual needs, and where we possibly can, we will support students.
And that's why the onset, the discussion of that on the onset is so significant, so that we can start having those conversations as early as the admissions. Can SAE help us identify students' potentials with regards to creative and in which area? Yes, this is something, obviously not through a career coaching index, but through a series of workshops, designed partnerships. So we're able to assist you with student learning and understand where potentials may lie. We also are available to talk to students to students as well, to understand where the aspirations lie, and through a series of coaching conversations, discuss where that potential can take them a step further.
We also have a number of short courses that we run in terms of camps for students that are aimed at students in the school environment, and it's an opportunity for them to come in and try some of the skills out and decide which creative area they're most interested in.
Yeah, in fact, on this point, also I would like to inform everyone that we do run workshops and demo sessions and school trips at SAE. So we organize school trips for a group of students if they would like to come, visit, have an intro about the university, the programs that we offer, and plus they would go after that to attend a workshop in the field that they are interested in. And in fact, those workshops have been a great tool to create awareness, but also to identify the areas that the students, they want to go through. We do run camps also during the school trimester breaks, and I believe that I have shared the series of the different camps that we will be running in December. But again, if anyone is interested in organizing either field trips to SAE or for us to go to your schools and have talks with the students through like workshops, please, you can get back to me and we will be able to accommodate.
I'm conscious of everybody's time, that's us, we're at just 11 o'clock. Are there any final questions or any requests for perhaps topics for future events? Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for their time today. I know that my colleagues in the marketing department will be following up with you to find out obviously what was of value and also to seek any requests that you have for any future events. So thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We understand how super busy you are within the school environment, and we hope you have a good run into the winter break. Thank you, everybody.
I'm sorry for joining late. I'm sorry for joining late, but not fortunate enough to listen to you well, but engage in some meetings here. Yep. I hope we can have some material which we can read and go through to get the benefits.
The session is actually being recorded, so we can certainly share that with you, and if there's anything that you would like to follow up on, then please do let us know.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time today. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good rest of the day.
Bye.